Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Well, Yankee fans have to hold their breath as Max Fried exits the game early in a 7-0 loss against the Orioles. But even more dire than that, will be examined by the team doctor and had images taken on the elbow, which has seemingly been bothering him for quite a while there, and got to the point where he actually had to take himself out of a game there. So a little scary for the Yankees as they continue on a miserable road trip. Got swept by the Brewers there and just squeaked out one win against the Baltimore team who they swept for 4 games last weekend. And right now it looks like on a different side of that edge. And if that's not bad enough, Caballero finally be placed on the L, which brought up Anthony Volpe and gave him an opportunity there, and goes 0 for 3 in the game and has a fielding error as well. So things not going well for the Yankees as they're about to face off in Phase 1 of the Subway Series against the Mets at Citi Field, who at least got a little buzz going for them with them winning a couple of games against Detroit. And, of course, A.J. Ewing, their young gun, coming up there and providing a little excitement for the team. So we'll get to all of it. Before we get started there, make sure you subscribe to this podcast, Section 420, Talkin Yankees, the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And there's also the YouTube version of the show. Go to YouTube, search for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, and subscribe there as well. And put up the most recent YouTube the other day. And, of course, right after that, the Yankees announced that Caballero, who was at the time going a test in New York on that middle finger, I guess they decided to place him on the IL, so it's only a 10-day IL stint. And Caballero pretty adamant that he's going to come back exactly on the 10 days, which I like to hear that. You see some of these things sometimes, like they'll play someone like on a 15-day IL, but the person's gone for 3 weeks. So it's like, well, it's more than 15 days. So how does that work? But nevertheless, Caballero pretty adamant about coming back as soon as possible. But of course, as we mentioned, some different possibilities on the YouTube episode. Mentioned, man, you could maybe toy with the idea of putting McMahon there, who took some ground as a shortstop during spring training there. But you'd rather have him at third base. Rizarri's always an option there, but again, a little older now. Probably doesn't have the range. So another possibility was either stick with Max Schumann, who they bought up when Stanton went down, or they dip into the candy bag there and finally pull up Anthony Volpe, who had been sitting in AAA. Again, after a kind of a ho-hum rehab assignment where he really wasn't impressive enough where you'd want to bring him up. And again, at the time, the Yankees were rolling. Caballero was doing well there, so you didn't kind of want to mess around with that. Well, now with Caballero go down, which, again, these things always happen, opens up a door, and Volpe now back with the team at shortstop. And, of course, in the first game, not good at all, going 0 for 3 and having a fielding error, which, again, the whole thing kind of got buried just because I think the bigger concern is with Max Fried and this elbow and the fact the Yankees got blanked in the game 7-0, as, again, the offense, for the most part, has been really struggling on this road trip so far. And again, a lot of people starting to start throwing the daggers a little bit, kind of back at Jazz, who did not get off to a good start to the season, then had a nice little run there. A couple of series against Boston, Houston, and then Texas, but then since then has cooled down. And again, you just look at the kind of everyone's kind of focusing on the bottom. The Yankee batting on mainly the likes of Jazz and Austin Wells, who again have not overall gotten off to a really good start to the season there. And you just kind of looking for areas where the Yankees could be doing better offensively, and of course at the bottom lineup is definitely one of them. But get back at the main topic there, and not getting off the tail, is been the Max Fried elbow. Now, according to his comments after the game, he didn't feel like there was anything of grave concern. In fact, he feels like there's even a good possibility he can make his next start. And in terms of what it is, he feels like it's just a sort of little tightness in the back of the elbow, kind of in the back of the elbow tricep area, where it's just been getting tough for him to really feel loose, and he kind of feels a little irritation there. Kind of makes sense. I mean, you look at his previous start against Milwaukee, where he gave up a season-high 5 runs, and he's just been mentioning that it's really been hard for him getting loose, and that's why even the most recent game, the final game against Baltimore, wasn't almost until that third inning where he was finally able to top out at 95 miles per hour. So it's just been hard for him to get loose. They really can't figure it out. And he said really this issue has been bothering him for a number of starts there. So it's not like there's something that's cropped up last week. So if that's the case, I mean, it seems more muscle related. And I guess if you're a Yankee fan, that's what you kind of have to hope right now. You just don't want any structural damage inside the elbow, because that's when you get into Tommy John and other stuff that we just don't want to hear right now. I don't think that's the case, because I think his velocity would have been way down. You would have seen him get clocked. Kind of happened with Cole. He came into spring training last season. He had no velocity on the fastball, stuff like that, and he's kind of feel like, maybe this is a problem. This is going to be a problem there. Then you've turned around and it looks like he needs Tommy John surgery. Doesn't seem like the same case with Max Fried. So if anything, maybe it's like a muscle soreness that maybe needs to put him on the 10-day IL. That's fine. And these things always work themselves out. We were worried about, Rendon's back and Cole's coming back soon, and Will Warren's pitching great and Ryan Weather's pitching great. What are you going to do with all this starting pitching? But again, these things always work out and someone always goes down. And so far, it looks like right now maybe the case Max Fried might have to miss a start or two just to get himself right. if that's the case, I think fine, you'll take that. You still have Cole probably, a couple weeks away from him returning to the team, but it's almost like fitting that Max Fried goes down and Cole inserts himself back in there. You can only smell that almost coming there, but we'll just have to wait. And as for Volpe here, Boone doesn't really seem committed one way or another. What happens when Cabrera comes back? I just think Boone's going to do the same thing. He's just going to go with the hot hand. If Volpe, over these next couple of games, maybe turns it around, starts hitting well, and has a good Subway Series that's impressive there, and then I think he could very well just hold on to the job. But if Volpe just stinks and struggles, and then Cabrera comes back, well, Cabrera will probably get it started too, and it's just going to be same thing, or best man wins, and we'll just see what happens at that point. I think for everything considered, in kind of my original statement, I just think since Volpe, I guess technically they could maybe have him play some second base if Jazz really continues to struggle there, but it's not really the case. Offensively, at least power-wise, we know Jazz the much better player than Volpe in that regard. I just don't know if Volpe's going to steal Jazz's job at that point there. Remember Jazz was a 30-30 player last season. I just don't think Volpe has that type of offensive capability to him. But that's the only other option. But I think the best thing is for Volpe to perform well, be the shortstop for the Yankees, and when Cabrera comes back, kind of be the jack of all trades, kind of be like the Max Schumann guy who, you could put him at shortstop, you could put him at third, you could put him in the outfield, you could have him come pinch run off the bench, you could spot start him. That's where Cabrera's value really is, not as an everyday shortstop, but if he hits well and he comes back and Volpe struggles, then he just might find himself in that role as he was before this injury to his middle finger happened. So we're just going to have to see how that all shakes out. Boone doesn't really seem committed to one guy one way or another. And as for the Yankees right now, maybe they're catching the Mets at the wrong time. Of course, the Mets probably just, statistically always just about the worst team in baseball. But, they won a couple games now against Detroit. They got their young guy, A.J. Ewing, coming up, providing a little excitement, but it's still the Mets. They still have their issues. But it might be a situation where just a weekend where the Yankees are coming into Queens, they just happen to get hot. You could just see that happening just at the same time. Yankees seem to be faltering a little bit. Again, 1-5 so far on this road trip, which has not been good for them well. And again, the Yankees could be just catching the Mets at a bad time. And if the Mets sweep the Yankees or take 2 out of 3, it's gonna be quite embarrassing. And you almost smell that going to happen as well. But hopefully that's not the case. Obviously, it's just the fact that this is the way the Mets have been struggling this season. At the very least, the Yankees should take 2 out of 3 of the series there. But it's going to happen. This will be the Mets' big hurrah. And then after that, they'll lose the next 15 games in a row. But they'll have this one great weekend against the Yankees. That's going to happen. But nevertheless, we'll just have to wait and see how that all shakes out. So things not extremely terrible for the Yankees. But obviously, you're worried about Fried's elbow. But according to his comments and this type of injury he's seeing so far, it seems to be more of a muscle thing. Maybe just the tricep or something like that. The back muscle of the elbow there is this little sore, maybe needs to skip a start or two, and it's seemingly something he's been pitching with so far this season, and overall he's been good for the Yankees. Again, had that one start against Milwaukee where he got knocked around for 5 runs, but other than that, pretty good all the way there. So it's just something he's been dealing with on and off. It just might be a little bit of a nagging thing, and again, if they just got to sit him down for a start or two, that's not terrible. Again, Will Warren's throwing well. Ryan Weathers is throwing well. Schlittler's throwing well. I know they got one start out of it, though, and they can't really put too much stock into one start there. But, again, the Yankees aren't dire need for starting pitching. And, you always have someone like Luis Gil as well in AAA if you want to bring him up to a spot start or something like that. So I think the Yankees are able to handle it, as well as, Elmer Rodriguez as well floating around. So, again, even if Fried has to miss a start or two, not the end of the world. You just got to hope there's no structural damage inside the elbow. And as for Volpe, he's just getting a chance. Same way as Spencer Jones is getting a chance. Jason Dominguez got a chance before he banged in the wall. He's going to be out for the foreseeable future. So that's why beginning of the season when people are sent to AAA or option to AAA, I was like, don't panic over it. It's not the end of the story because guys always get hurt and they always get hurt and you get opportunities. So hopefully Spencer Jones takes advantage of his and hopefully Volpe takes advantage of his, but that remains to be seen. Catch you next time.